You know what nobody tells you about success? The silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that echoes. The kind that reminds you that you're surrounded by millions of people who know your name, but nobody who actually knows you. And I'm not talking about the surface level. Knowing. I'm talking about the kind of knowing where someone can look at you across a room and tell you're not okay without you having to say a word. That kind of knowing doesn't scale. It doesn't come with the territory. And somewhere between the first billion and the 10th, you stop expecting it altogether. I'm Elon Musk. You know that already. You know the companies, the headlines, the tweets that move markets, the ambitious plans to make humanity multiplanetary. What you don't know is what it costs. Not in money. Money is just numbers on a screen after a certain... I'm talking about what it costs in terms of your humanity, your ability to connect, your capacity to be present, your willingness to be vulnerable. Because when you're operating at this level, vulnerability isn't seen as human. It's seen as weakness, and weakness is something you can't afford. Not with what's at stake, not with how many people are depending on you, not with how many critics are waiting for you to fail. So you build armor, layer by layer, year by year, year by year. You train yourself not to feel things too deeply, because if you did, the weight of it all would crush you. You learn to compartmentalize, to separate the part of you that's building rockets from the part of you that's just a person who wants to be held sometimes. And eventually, those compartments become walls. And those walls become a prison. A very successful, very impressive prison that everyone on the outside envies, but a prison nonetheless. Let me tell you about last night. Nothing special. No big event. No launch. No crisis. Just a regular Tuesday evening by my standards. I finished work around 11 p.m., which is early for me. Drove back to my place, and the moment I walked through that door, the silence hit me like a physical force. This massive house, designed by architects who won awards, filled with furniture that cost more than most people's homes, and it felt completely empty. Not empty of things, empty of life, empty of the sounds that make a house a home. No one calling my name. No kids running around at that hour. Obviously, they're with their mothers. No partner asking how my day was. Just silence. And my own thoughts, which, let me tell you, are not always great. I stood there in my kitchen, this state-of-the-art kitchen that I use twice a month, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time I had a meal with someone where I was fully present, where I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes, where I wasn't mentally running through the next day's schedule, where I was just there, in the moment with another human being, having a conversation that mattered, and I couldn't remember. Not because it was so long ago, but because I'm not sure it's ever happened. Not in the way that counts. People think loneliness is about being alone. It's not. Well, I'm alone a lot, sure. But that's not what loneliness is. Loneliness is being surrounded by people and still feeling fundamentally disconnected. It's having thousands of employees and millions of followers and multiple ex-wives and several kids, and still going to bed feeling like nobody really knows who you are beneath the brand, beneath the persona, beneath the armor you've built to survive in this world you've created. Here's what success at this level actually looks like. You wake up and immediately your brain starts running. Before your eyes are fully open, you're already thinking about the 5 critical problems that need solving. The engineering challenge that's blocking progress. The personnel issue that could become a bigger problem if you don't address it. Your brain becomes this high-performance machine that never shuts off. Even in dreams, you're solving problems. I've literally woken up with solutions to engineering problems, which sounds productive, Except it means you never rest. Not really. We go through your day having interactions with hundreds of people. Meetings, calls, emails, messages. You're communicating constantly. But it's all transactional. Someone needs a decision. Someone needs approval. Someone needs approval. Someone needs you to put out a fire. Someone needs you to be the visionary who has all the answers. And you perform that role because that's what's required. That's what everyone is paying you for, in one way or another. Your certainty, your conviction, your ability to see around corners. So you give them that all day long until you forget that there's a person underneath the performance who has doubts and fears and questions and doesn't always know what the hell he's doing. And then you have these moments, these brief windows where usually late at night when everyone's gone and it's just you and the work. And in those moments, you feel it. This profound sense of disconnection, like you're watching your own life from the outside. Like you're this character playing Elon Musk, but you're not sure where the character ends and the real person begins. Or if there's even a difference anymore. I've been thinking a lot lately about what I've sacrificed. Not in some self-pitying way. I've sacrificed relationships, 3 marriages that didn't work. Not because the women weren't incredible. They were. But because I wasn't capable of being what a partner needs. I was always half present. Always 1 foot out the door mentally. Always prioritizing the mission over the person right in front of me. And you can say all the right things. You can say you care. You can say they matter. When they're competing with your phone for your attention and losing, I've sacrificed time. Time is the one resource you can't get back. Can't manufacture. Can't optimize beyond a certain point. And I've spent mine building, creating, pushing, which has value, sure. We've advanced electric vehicles by probably a decade. We've made reusable rockets a reality. We're actually working toward making humanity multiplanetary. These aren't small things. But the cost is time I didn't spend with my kids when they were young. Moments I missed. Bedtimes and school plays and just regular Tuesday evenings being present in their lives. And you tell yourself it's worth it. That you're building a better future for them. For everyone. But late at night, you wonder if that's true, or if it's just the story you tell yourself to justify the choices you've made. I've sacrificed normalcy, and I know how that sounds. Poor billionaire can't have a normal life. But hear me out. I can't go to a coffee shop and just sit. I can't go to a movie without it becoming a thing. Can't have a private moment in public because someone's always watching, always recording, always ready to turn whatever you do into content. So you retreat. You isolate. You create these controlled environments where you can exist without being perceived. But humans aren't meant to live like that. We're social creatures. We need casual interactions, random encounters. Random encounters. The ability to just be in the world without it being an event. And I've lost that. Completely. I've sacrificed peace. My nervous system hasn't been calm in probably 15 years. There's always something. Always a crisis or a deadline or a problem or an opportunity that requires immediate attention. Always someone who needs something from me. Always another fire to put out. And your body adapts. You get used to operating in that heightened state. The adrenaline becomes normal. The stress becomes baseline. Until you don't know how to relax anymore. Don't remember what it feels like to just be at ease. To not be braced for the next thing. To feel safe enough to let your guard down. But here's the thing that nobody talks about. The thing that keeps me up at night more than any business problem. I'm not sure I know how to be loved. Not in the real way. Not in the way that requires you to be vulnerable and open and willing to let someone see all of you, including the parts that aren't impressive. I know how to be admired. I know how to be respected. I know how to be feared. I know how to be feared. I know how to be controversial. But actually loved for who I am, not what I represent or what I can do or what I've built. I don't know if I've ever had that, or if I even know what it would look like. Because to be truly loved, you have to be truly known. And to be truly known, you have to let people in. And I've spent decades building walls that keep people out. For good reasons, mostly. You have to protect yourself at this level. You have to maintain boundaries. You have to be careful who you trust because everyone wants something. Everyone has an angle. Everyone sees you as an opportunity or a threat or a symbol or a meal ticket. Very few people see you as just a person. A flawed, complicated, sometimes struggling person who's doing his best and getting some things right and screwing a lot of things up. I look at couples sometimes, normal couples, people who aren't famous or wealthy or building anything that will change the world. Just two people who found each other and built a life together. And there's this ease between them, this comfort. They can sit in silence and it's not heavy. They can have a bad day and come home and be held, and that's enough. They don't have to perform. They don't have to be on. They can just be themselves, whatever that means in that moment. And I realize I don't have that. I've never really had that. And I'm not sure if it's because I chose the wrong people or if I'm the wrong person. If I'm too damaged, too driven, too obsessed, too incapable of being present. If the way my brain works makes me fundamentally incompatible with the kind of intimacy that makes life actually worth living. And before you think this is just some rich guy complaining, let me be clear. I'm not looking for sympathy. I made my choices. I knew what I was signing up for, at least in theory. I knew that building what I'm building would require everything. That there would be costs. I just didn't know those costs would be so personal, so human. I thought I could compartmentalize, keep some part of myself separate and protected and available for connection. But it doesn't work like that. You can't be one person at work and a different person at home and a different person at home. Eventually, you're just one person. And if that person is optimized for performance and achievement and scale, then that's who you are everywhere, everyone. Even when it's the last thing the situation needs. I've been doing a lot of therapy lately, which is probably surprising to people who think of me as someone who has it all figured out. I don't. Not even close. And I reached a point where I realized that building rockets to Mars is easier than building a functional relationship. That I can solve complex engineering problems, but I can't solve the problem of my own emotional unavailability. That I can lead companies with thousands of employees, but I can't figure out how to be present with one person who matters. And that's humbling. More humbling than any business failure. Because business failures you can recover from. You can learn from them and iterate and come back stronger. But personal failures, relationships that end, time you can't get back with your kids. My therapist asked me a question last week that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. She asked, if you weren't Elon Musk, who would you be? And I didn't have an answer. Because I've been this for so long that I don't remember who I was before. Or if there even was a before. Like maybe I've always been this driven, this obsessed, this unable to slow down or be satisfied or feel like I've done enough. Maybe this isn't something that happened to me. Maybe this is just who I am. And if that's true, then what? Then I'm stuck. Because you can change behaviors, you can learn skills, but you can't change your fundamental operating system. You can't rewire the core of who you are. Can you? I think about my kids a lot. I have several of them from different relationships, and I love them more than anything. But I also know I'm not the dad they deserve. Not because I don't care, but because I don't know how to turn off, how to be fully present. How to just play without my mind wandering to work problems. How to make them feel like they're the most important thing in the room when my phone is buzzing with actual emergencies that actually need my attention. And they're young enough now that maybe they don't fully realize it, but they will. Eventually they'll figure out that their dad was always somewhere else mentally. That his body was in the room, but his mind was in some meeting or on some problem or 3 steps ahead planning the next thing. And that will hurt them. And I'll have done that. Me. Not the world. Not the circumstances. Me and my choices and my inability to be different than I am. I wonder sometimes what would have happened if I'd made different choices, if I'd stayed in one relationship and really committed to making it work, if I'd limited myself to one company instead of running multiple companies simultaneously. If I decided that being a present father and partner was more important than changing the world, would I be happier? Would I be more fulfilled? Would I sleep better at night? Or would I be tormented by the things I didn't build? The impact I didn't have. The potential I didn't realize. Is there a version of me that could have done both? I could have had the career and the family? The achievement and the intimacy? Or are those fundamentally incompatible at the level I'm operating at? I don't have answers to these questions. I just have the questions. And the late night realization that I'm 50-something years old, one of the most successful people on the planet by conventional metrics, and I'm lonely, profoundly lonely, in a way that money can't fix. Can't fix. That achievement can't resolve. Of that building another company, sending another rocket, won't address. It's a loneliness that comes from being fundamentally disconnected from what makes us human. From having optimized myself into a productivity machine and forgotten how to just be a person. There's this moment that happens sometimes, usually late at night after everyone's gone home. I'll be sitting in my office or in my car or wherever, and I'll see someone, a couple walking down the street holding hands, or someone on a video call with their family, laughing at some inside joke. Or just 2 people having coffee and talking, really talking. Not about business or strategy or goals, just connecting as humans. And I feel this ache, this deep, almost physical ache, because I want that. Not the performance of it, not the image of it, the actual experience of it. The feeling of being with someone and not having to be Elon Musk. Just being whoever I am underneath that. Just being enough as I am, without the achievements or the companies or the vision for humanity's future. Just being a person who is seen and known and valued for existing, not for producing. But I don't know how to get there from here. I don't know how to undo decades of conditioning. You, building walls, of prioritizing mission over connection, of treating relationships like problems to be solved instead of experiences to be lived. I don't know how to turn off the part of my brain that's always working, always calculating, always 3 steps ahead. I don't know how to be present when presence has never been my strong suit. I don't know how to be vulnerable when vulnerability has only ever gotten me hurt. And maybe that's the real loneliness. Not being alone, but being trapped inside yourself. Being unable to break through to genuine connection even when you want it, even when you need it, even when you're surrounded by opportunities for it. Because the walls you built to protect yourself have become walls that trap you, and you're not sure if you're strong enough to tear down, or if you even remember how, or if there's anyone on the other side who would still want to know you once the walls came down and they saw what you've become. I think about legacy a lot. What will I leave behind? The companies will outlast me. The technology will continue. The mission to Mars will go on. But what about the human side? What about the relationships, the memories, the moments of genuine connection? What about being a person who made other people feel less alone? Who showed up fully? Who loved well, even if he didn't build anything that changed the world? Is that part of my legacy? Or did I trade that for the other kind? And if I did, was it worth it? I don't know. I really don't. Some days I think, yes, absolutely. The work matters more than anything, and personal fulfillment is a luxury I couldn't afford if I wanted to achieve what I needed to achieve. Other days I think I've made a terrible mistake. I've sacrificed what actually matters for what merely looks impressive. That I'll be on my deathbed having sent people to Mars, but having never truly let anyone into my heart. And I'm not sure which version is true. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe it's more complicated than a binary choice. But I know this. I'm tired. Tired of performing. Tired of being on. Tired of being the person everyone expects me to be. Tired of not knowing how to be anyone else. If you're listening to this and you're young and ambitious and you want to build something great, let me tell you something I wish someone had told me. Success is easier than connection. Achievement is easier than intimacy. Building a company is easier than building a relationship because companies have systems, they have processes, they have metrics, they have clear problems and solutions. People don't. Plus, people are messy and unpredictable, and they need things you can't schedule or optimize or solve with engineering. They need presence, vulnerability, consistency, time. Things that require you to stop running long enough to actually be with them. And if you're not careful, you'll wake up one day having built everything you set out to build and realize you built it all alone. That loneliness, that specific loneliness of succeeding at everything except connection, is something money can't fix, fame can't resolve, achievement can't fill. Yes. Yeah, this is the truth about loneliness at the top. It's not about the lack of people, it's about the lack of connection. It's about being known by millions but understood by no one. It's about having everything and still feeling like something fundamental is missing. It's about the silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that echoes. Kind that reminds you that for all you've built and all you've achieved, you're still just a person who wants what every person wants, to be seen, to be known, to be valued not for what you do, but for who you are. To come home to someone who makes the silence feel less heavy. And maybe I'll figure it out. Maybe there's still time. Maybe I can learn what I never learned. How to be present. How to be vulnerable. How to be vulnerable. How to let people in. How to value connection as much as achievement. How to be human again, or maybe for the first time. I don't know. But I'm trying. In my own broken, complicated, probably doing it wrong way, I'm trying. Because the alternative is spending the rest of my life building rockets to escape a loneliness that lives inside me. So if you're out there feeling this too, feeling successful but disconnected, achieving but alone, building but empty, know that you're not crazy. It's real. This loneliness at the top is real, and maybe acknowledging it is the first step. Maybe admitting we don't have it all figured out is how we start to figure it out. Maybe being vulnerable enough to say I'm lonely is the beginning of not being lonely anymore. I don't know. But I hope so. Because I'm tired of the silence. And I think a lot of us are. We're just too afraid to say it out loud. So I'm saying it. For me. And for anyone else who needs to hear that they're not alone in feeling alone, even at the top, especially at the top.